But I know how Gene works with this, and he's quite interesting. He's one of the few pastors who actually use the Bible and take it off the altar and address it to you. Jesus left that place and went to the vicinity of Tyre. He entered a house and did not want anyone to know it. Yet, he could not keep his presence secret. In fact, as soon as she heard about him, a woman whose little daughter was possessed by the evil spirit came and fell at his feet. The woman was a Greek. She was born in Syrian Phoenicia. She begged Jesus to drive the demon out of her daughter. First, let the children eat all they want, he told her, for it is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs. Yes, Lord, she replied, but even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs. Then he told her, for such a reply you may go. The demon has left your daughter. She went home and found her child lying on the bed, and the demon was gone. Then Jesus left the vicinity of Tyre and went through Sidon down to the Sea of Galilee and into the region of Decapolis. There, some people brought to him a man who was deaf and could barely talk, and they begged him to place his hand on the man. After he took him aside, away from the crowd, Jesus put his fingers into the man's ears. Then he spit, and he touched the man's tongue. He looked up to heaven, and with a deep sigh he said, Euphoratha, which means, be opened. At this the man's ears were opened, his tongue was loosened, and he began to speak plainly. Jesus commanded them not to tell anyone. But the more he did so, the more they kept talking about it. People were overwhelmed with amazement. He has done everything well, they said. He even makes the deaf hear and the mute speak. This is the word of the Lord in the house of the Lord. Thanks be to God, yes. In the beginning, all things have a beginning and an end. We have to remember that. All things do have a beginning and an end. And there are precious moments in between that affect us. We all have precious moments. Now, some of them are kairos moments. And that means that you get the moment and you know what you have to do and you do it. And it's good in God's eyes and he likes it. But some of them are chronos moments. You get the thought, you get the idea, you're going to do it, but you just don't. Other things get in the way. And you let those precious moments slide away. And you don't do it on purpose, but it happens. There's a play, how many of you would remember Stop the World, I Want to Get Off? Anthony Newley. Anthony Newley sang the song Once in a Lifetime. I'm not going to sing it, don't worry. But this is once in a lifetime. I'm going to do great things. This is my moment, and I'm going to do great things. Thank you. That was very nice. But did Anthony Newley actually do it? No, I don't know. But he's trying to be that once-in-a-lifetime moment. Now, sometimes this happens to us, and we let these moments slip by. the other day, probably, maybe a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, I went to the market. I go often, little things, pick up stuff. And we eat a lot of ice cream. I don't know about y'all, but we eat ice cream. And we were out of ice cream. So I had stopped at Brahms and picked up a couple of things of ice cream and had them in the car. It was 108 degrees. It was hot. Ooh, it was hot. Very muggy. 92% humidity that day. It was almost like you were walking in a swimming pool. And as I'm coming home, I pulled up to a stoplight. That was about the 5th car in line. And there was an attractive young Hispanic girl. She had a little boy sitting in the shade next to the street there. And I'm telling you, it was hot. And she was going from car to car asking, please, anything, please. And I was about the 5th car in line, and just about the time she approached my car, the light changed. Now, I'm not prone to giving these people money anyway, but this one was different. There was something about her that was different. And when I pulled away without giving her anything, I felt terrible. I had a really bad feeling. I could feel it. He was frowning at me. And he's right. But I got the ice cream home, and my daughter was there. I said, put this in the freezer. I'm going back. And I did. I got in the car, drove back to that spot, and she was still there. And I already had money in my hand that I was going to give her. And she came up to the car, and I said, I wanted to, and she says, thank you. And it was a lot more than I normally give these people. And I was kind of taken aback, but then I said, you know what? I don't care. I got what I wanted. The frown's gone, and I feel good. It was a Kairos moment. I did something right to help someone. And that made me feel good. So, if we think back about how things happen, there was a Kairos moment 25 years or so ago here, and this church was established. And there were, 14 people, I believe, started it. And I think only one of them are still alive. And she's not with us around here anymore. But God looked at this church, and he says, it's flourishing, it's starting to grow. Do you know there were only 14,000 people in this whole area when this church was founded? I know because I looked it up. But it started with a really strong group of leaders, and they wouldn't quit, and they did a good job. And then God smiled on this one little guy up in Minnesota who was a fertilizer salesman and said, I want you. Gene was probably about 60 at the time. And Gene also said he wanted to be with the church. And he sent him here. And he's still spreading things around. Sometimes he spreads them pretty thick. So we have to be careful. But it's a better product than what he had before. You don't have to tell on me. He's probably listening to me, and I'm getting in trouble anyway. But the church started to grow, and it grew, and it got better, and it got better, and it got better. And that's what we have today. Now, I've got a couple of cheat sheets here. But I wrote them so poorly I can't read them. You know, a lot of things happen that we take for granted, and we want to get closer to God. We all want to get closer to God. And in the Bible, there are many areas that he talks about where people had a really good opportunity to get closer to him and screwed it up. The elder brother, remember him? Prodigal son. The elder brother was so jealous and so angry and so mean he wouldn't go to the party. Whose loss was that? And then there was these foolish girls who were going to the wedding party and didn't fill their lamp with oil. And they tried to borrow it from everybody else, and nobody would give it to them, so they didn't get to go to the wedding party. And then there was Pontius Pilate. Now, there was the biggest mistake anybody could ever make. He could have set Jesus free, right? He could have just said, I'm done with this. He's innocent. He's done nothing wrong. Leave him alone. But what did he do? He says, I'm done with this. You do what you want with him. That was a big mistake. But because of that, we're all here today. But these things occur. And it happens. And we think about all the things that we think about that God does for us. And it's one name comes out all the time. Now, if she was still playing, I'd have her sneak this one in, but she didn't. So, remember the song, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. What a wonderful name. It brings us closer to Him, and He is who we need in our lives to become closer to them. When you have a problem, who do you put your trust in? Do you call your lawyer, the doctor, your family, your friends? If you do, what do they do for you? They don't do a lot. And the problem doesn't go away. I was just telling someone here today, I was having a problem. I had a mild infection that was causing me a lot of trouble. And just before we left, the doctor called and said it was gone. Thank God, and believe me, I did. But that's what happens when you put your faith in Him. You've got to put your faith in Him if you want to keep it going that way. But this church, if you look around, please, just look around. Where are we headed with this church? I love this church. You walk in the door and somebody puts a cloak around you of love. Everybody, you can just feel it when you come in. But we're losing a lot of people. And I don't see anybody in this room in the 40s and 50s area. And worse than that, what are we going to do about getting some young people in here? If I miss somebody at 40 or 50, I'm sorry. I got a mean look back there, so woo, I screwed up. But this happens. And we have to step out of our shell and our comfort zone, and we have to step out and participate and get involved with the community more. My church in Texas has about 125 young people, teenagers, which is phenomenal. Now, they don't have the money and the wealth and the security and the workers that we have here, okay? They're in trouble all the time. They built this edifice to the young people. It cost $4 million, and now it costs them $17,000 a month with no income coming in from it. So it's putting a heck of a drain on the church. They did it wrong, but they did it for the right reason. We need to bring that lifeblood back into this church. We need to get those young people in here. We need them, and they need us. With all the mess that's going on in this world today, they definitely need us. So we have to think about, how do we get these people back? And I think there's some plans that we're going to talk about, and I've spoken to one person about it already. There's some ways to do this. How do you get the young boys to come back to church? You bring the young girls, right? So we got to get involved with the high school. Get involved with the outside people. And I think, we do a lot with One Next Door, and this is a great church for that. And there's no reason we can't do that. I'm going to end this because we have communion coming up. But there's one thing you have to remember. It's not how many breaths you have left to take. It's how many times you're going to have wonderful moments that take your breath away. It's not how long or how many breaths you have left. It's how many wonderful moments that you're going to have with God or with your family that will actually take your breath away. Amen.